All right, I think we are going to get started here. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right. Sarah, let me know if there's any issues with that. A couple of housekeeping items. There's a large number of people that were registered and attending for this, so everyone has been muted. If you have questions throughout, you can chat in the Zoom dialogue or post a question in there. Sarah will be moderating this, and then at the end, we'll save some time to go through all the questions. So again, everyone will be muted during this, but please definitely ask questions if you have them throughout, and then we'll get to them at the end. So with that, I'm going to get started. Our topic today is why most shops and dealerships fail at recruiting technicians. Judging by the number of registrants, I think it kind of hit with a lot of people. There's several topics we could go through with this kind of general topic. We're really focusing on a couple that we want to dive deep into, but really there's probably 3 or 4 others we could cover as well. So looking forward to it. Again, keep those questions coming in as I talk through the slides here, and we'll save questions at the end. Oops. All right, so first, introducing myself. So I am Mark Wilson, the CEO of both WrenchWay and Find a Wrench. I work with those companies with my business partner, Jay Ganinin. Judging by the registrant list, I've talked to a lot of you already. I know Jay knows a lot of you guys. My background, though, for those people that don't know me, I started as a CPA, so then I went the CFO route. And then I started a couple software companies that I was fortunate enough to sell. So kind of a varied background. I didn't grow up in the industry we're talking about today like Jay did. I've known him for a number of years. The last year, a little more than a year that I've been involved, I'm definitely learning a lot. As many things as I can read, as many people as I can talk to. But it's also good. And this has been a topic Jay and I have talked about a lot of. Sometimes it's good to get a new perspective in these things. And I know he does a great job with the content he puts out, and he's lived this his whole life. But sometimes when you're in the weeds that much, you kind of take things for granted, and a fresh perspective can be good on some things. So that's why we wanted to put this webinar out there, because I think it does look at things a little differently than maybe you normally would be accustomed to. I put the bullet on here about process and user experience. It's going to be relevant for the things I go through today. But in my career, that's really what I love doing. I'm a process guy. Everyone on our team knows that. I just think once you set up a good process, things work smoother. You can find issues faster, fix them faster. So that's very key to me. And then also user experience, whether that user is a customer, it's a user of a software or website thing that we built. In our case, we'll be talking about the candidate experience. But if you can put yourself in their shoes or try to think like them, that's going to help with anything you're doing. So during the presentation, you'll see a lot of that today. Just WrenchWay in general, for those that aren't aware of what we do, we're really building products to help with the technician shortage. This webinar is definitely not meant to be a commercial for anything like that, but obviously you want to know the background of who you're listening to on the presentation here. So we are working hard to help address the shortage. On the Find a Wrench side, we are a recruiting company for auto and diesel technicians. We don't work in other industries. We don't help hire salespeople or anything like that. It's truly just focused on technicians on the auto and the diesel side and the heavy equipment side as well. So this is the stuff that we live and breathe every day. And hopefully we can help add some value whether you use our products or not. Agenda for what we're going to be going through over the next 45 minutes or an hour. Talk about the technician shortage. Really, I think it's interesting to take concepts that work in other either industries or other parts of a business and see how they can be applied into different areas. So we're going to look at very proven methods that work in marketing and see how we can use them in the recruiting world. We also are going to spend a good amount of time on what we at WrenchWay think we've identified as kind of the step that most shops, most dealerships miss in the recruiting process. It's not the only thing that people can improve on, but it's a definite one that I'd say at least 9 out of 10 companies we talk to or work with definitely miss or don't give this step enough attention. So that'll be a big part of it. And then as kind of a bonus, Jay and I always talk about the need for always be recruiting. That can be a whole webinar on its own, but there's a couple of slides at the end that I want to talk about with that because it definitely relates to what we're talking about here today. It just won't be the main focus. And then, like I said, we will leave time for Q&A at the end. So first, kind of setting the stage, talking about the shortage. At first, I had a slide here with the typical, 3, 4, 5 different stats on how this many thousands of technicians are needed in the next 5 years. There's this many jobs that will go unfilled. I ended up keeping those out. I think if you're attending this webinar, you're probably quite aware of that. So what we wanted to focus on instead is the technicians that are in the industry. So there's really 2 issues going on. There's not enough technicians coming into the industry, but then the existing ones are either leaving the industry or a lot of them are not happy. So our goal at WrenchWay is twofold. One, you can see we want to make that pie bigger. We want to get more kids, more other people maybe switching careers to join the industry. So making that circle larger. That's the topic for another day. What we're going to focus on, the second one, is changing the happiness or the satisfaction level of the people that are in the industry. So the first graph I look at here, you can see there's at any given time, there's only about 2 to 3% of experienced technicians that are unemployed. That's no news to anyone here. Most people know that any technician that's at least decent has a job already. And if they start looking, they can find another 5 more jobs within a week, probably. The other end of that spectrum is 25%. It's really between 20 and 25%. They are employed and they love where they're at. They're happy. They're probably not going anywhere. But the vast majority, the middle, the blue area in that first chart, 73%, they have jobs, but they're not satisfied where they're at. Those are the at-risk ones that we risk losing to go into a different trade, leaving the trades altogether. Those ones are at risk of leaving the industry, but they're also a huge opportunity if you're trying to recruit technicians. So those are the ones you want to get to come work for your shop. Oftentimes, it's not because they don't like the profession they're in, it's that they're not happy at the specific shop or dealership that they're in. So we're trying to help them find the right location.
We do this a lot of times. I remember.
Not sure what that was. But we want to move the needle there and get many more people employed and satisfied. So you can move that up there. So what that means and how it relates to the step that a lot of companies are missing. Again, I want to focus on how we can take concepts that work in marketing. If you've ever been involved in marketing or worked with anyone who has, some of these things are going to be pretty basic to you, but it's a little refreshing, in my opinion, to look at it from a recruiting standpoint. So first, long gone are the days of just putting up an ad and finding a tech within a week or two. Those days just don't happen anymore because of the shortage and because of some other things we'll go through. That just isn't the case. If it works for you, great. It probably won't work much longer if that's all you're doing. So we want to help companies start thinking more strategically and think of it almost more like marketing. And with that, the 3 concepts I want to go over that, again, these are basic things in the marketing world, but I think it's kind of cool to look at it from recruiting perspective. First is a buyer persona. Second is documenting the customer journey. And then third is just the need for putting out content. So we'll go through each of those individually here. So what do I mean when I say a buyer persona? In the marketing world, this is just knowing who your target buyer is. So whatever product you sell, if it's a B2B software sale, a previous company I worked at, our target was a CFO type position at a mid-level. We sold to a lot of distributors and light manufacturers. So we got to know what magazines they read, what things they're interested in, what process are they interested in, what holes do they have in their current process, what keeps them up at night, things like that. Every marketing group does that, whether you're selling a consumer product or a B2B product, but documenting and getting very specific about who your target is. So for us, if we take that and use it for recruiting technicians, for today, we're going to look at recruiting experienced technicians. So some of these things I talk about also would be true for entry-level people coming out of school. But really what we're going to focus mostly on, just for time purposes, is that those experienced technicians that we're trying to recruit. First, as I showed it, this is the same chart I showed on the last slide. These people, they're currently employed. Very few of them are out of a job. And we have to recognize that when we go through our process of recruiting them. They also, though, a large percentage aren't happy where they're at. So they are checking out the job boards. They are looking at Facebook groups. They are kind of poking their head up once in a while to see what's out there. The problem is they're not taking the next step and then applying, and getting their attention can oftentimes be difficult. But a ton of studies show it, just us talking. We work with thousands of technicians in hundreds of shops. These guys are out there checking to see what's out there and if there is a better fit. So it's not just enough to identify, okay, this is someone who has experience. They aren't super happy where they're at. They're open to new opportunities. But let's look a little deeper than that, because too often what we hear from companies we work with is, oh, if you just get them in here and I can sell them on working here and the value of it. And that it's probably true, but it's easier said than done. If you look at when these people do look for jobs that are out there, yes, hitting apply is pretty simple. It's literally just a click of a mouse to apply to a job. But if you dig deeper, what does that mean? If they don't have a resume, they're going to have to update it. But more importantly, when you hit apply, it makes it real. It means you're probably going to have to take a day off of work to go interview. Changing jobs it's a big life decision. It's certainly much more than just clicking that apply button. So to get them, and we'll go through this in detail, but that is a big kind of mountain to climb to get them to go from browsing and seeing an ad to actually hitting apply. And it's important to understand that and put yourself, as you're writing these ads and you're doing some of the other things we'll talk about, to understand that, again, who this, not really a buyer, but who this target candidate of yours is and what that means when they hit apply. You're only going to do that if they're pretty confident that this new position offers something better, something different than what they currently have. So then, and all of these will kind of blend together. I just want to set the stage for the marketing components. The other one that any marketer does is document. It's called the customer journey. So in the marketing side, so in my past, we sell, again, B2B software usually. So you would document the process from marketing. We do trade shows, we maybe run ads, we do webinars, our sales team cold calls, that process. And then once someone's interested, maybe they do a demo, and then we talk pricing, and there's figuring out what they're currently doing. There's a whole 5, 6, 7, 8-step process that any marketing department probably has documented. But the goal of that is not just to document it, but to understand along the way, getting them to move from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Where can things break? Where is it too difficult? If someone's not ready to move from step 2 to step 3, what else can we have them do? How can we make it easy for them to progress along the way? You're not going from the introduction stage to buying immediately. So you're not going from step 1 to step 8. Unless it's a very simple sale, like selling a bottle of water or something like that. But anything that's complex at all, there's a series of steps they go through. Same thing is true with recruiting. What more complex thing is there? What bigger life change? Maybe there's a handful, but not very many, than switching where you work. That's a huge thing that there's obviously going to be several steps in. So any recruiting process, the customer journey, instead of that, it's really the recruiting and hiring process. Let's not get caught up in semantics here of whether it's really 8 steps or 5 or what. You might call these different things, but the first one is building awareness. So posting on the job boards, joining the Facebook groups, getting the word out there. But then the next one is actually getting them to apply. And then you review all the applications that come in, you go through an interview process, phone screen might be included in there. And then, you make them an offer and you onboard them. Again, each of these steps can probably be broken up into several other ones, but for our purposes, we're sticking with these kind of basic ones. Now, both illustratively on the page you're looking at and just in the real world, there's a huge gap between awareness and the application process. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about on the previous slide of knowing that experienced tech, knowing your buyer persona. They already have jobs. They need to see something in that awareness step that gets them to actually click apply. And too often that's all they can do is either apply or nothing. A lot of you on the call I know are from dealerships, so I'm sure you guys have a lot more stats than I do of the amount of research that's done by a customer before they ever come into the dealership or call or email or talk to any salesperson on your team. So much is done before that even happens. The same is true in recruiting. So much needs to be done before they even hit apply. And right now, there's just not a lot that goes on to get them to take that giant leap from awareness to the application process. So that gap, it's not just on the screen here. It's true. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Of if you just think through people that are scrolling, I'm not going to just apply for every job that's out there. Maybe if I'm unemployed, I will. Maybe if I'm an entry-level graduate, I will. But if you're an experienced technician, you're probably not going to do that. So what we kind of name this step is the consideration stage. So you scroll through, you might do that every once in a while. You're kind of figuring out, do I really want to make a move? Could I work things out where I'm at? Or if I do want to make a move, where am I going to go? You're just kind of considering all your options. So let's walk through this kind of in the sort of a real world example here. I pulled this from Indeed. I used the slide deck for a company in Denver we were talking to a couple weeks ago. So it's a couple weeks old, but and I just pulled a random one. There's nothing wrong with this job posting that's out there, the Jaguar Land Rover company. It's well written, it's good, but that's not the point of what I'm going to show. A couple points though. At the top in the Denver area, searched auto technician, 702 jobs. Any city you go to, there's probably going to be a lot, maybe not that many. We're in Wisconsin here. I know in Milwaukee, I did the same thing. It was like 299. Madison was 150 or something like that. Point is, there's a lot. And a lot of them are good companies. Most of them are, in fact. And a lot of them are well-written ads. They also start to look the same. So if I'm that technician who's scrolling through these, I might read the first couple, but they start to look the same. My real options, if I'm not ready to apply, and again, I'm calling it the consideration stage, what options do I have? Again, if I'm not ready to apply, I can add it to my favorites. That's what the little heart button is. Maybe I'll come back to those later. There's a reason why Indeed puts that there. They know that that's what a lot of people aren't yet ready to apply, but they want to save them. So that's decent. That's okay. Skipping over one of my bullets here, they can read reviews. Reviews are hit or miss. You could be the best company in the world and a couple disgruntled people kind of ruin those, but like it or not, people do read them. And then another thing is, if you're lucky, they might go out to your website. So what's on your website for the technicians? Chances are it's very customer focused, as it should be. You're trying to attract, if you're a dealership, you're trying to attract customers there. But there might be an About Us section or a history or careers. Hopefully you have that. But even if you do, I would challenge you to take a good look at it from the perspective if you're an experienced technician. Those are okay is what I would call them. You know, there might be a video in there about the history, or it's kind of a scripted thing where they walk around, everyone's happy working together. There's probably lists your benefits and maybe has some icons, things like that. I have no doubt that it looks good and no doubt that it's well intended, but it also is probably meant for every position in your company, not just technicians. So sales team, admin, all the other areas you might have. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't go that deep. It doesn't separate, or it doesn't provide the experienced technician that we're trying to attract any like below the surface level information that they're seeking out. So what you really want to do in this stage is give them a feel for what it's like to work at your shop or at your dealership. And so if you look at what you have currently on your careers page, does it really do that? Chances are no. A couple sentences or, you know, a general company history video, those are fine. Those are good parts of it, but they're definitely not the entirety of it. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides here and share kind of our example of this. You could build something similar on your own. Of course, you can use our pages, but I want to give you a real world example of what we mean by a page dedicated to that experienced technician. I'll come back to how you get to them on this page, but let's first look at again, we're pretending we're that experienced technician and we're looking at this page. Oops, sorry, I got a scan going there. So Dan's Auto Center, this is actually Jay, my business partner, his dad's shop. Jay grew up in this shop. It's a very small town here in Wisconsin, 2,500 or so people. So they're not a huge shop or anything, but the point remains. And also if they can do these, there's no excuse for others, larger ones, to put this stuff out there. So just a real quick overview of what we're doing on the page. And again, this comes about after talking to a ton of different shops, dealerships, and most importantly, technicians. So you have to have the kind of contact info up here, the open positions, and there's a form down there on the left too to reach out. That stuff's important, but I'm going to skip over it for now. The about us, same thing. It's important to say the history. It's on the top for the reason you kind of need that area. But your own website probably already has this. Your job postings probably have that. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit on that. The next section is photos. So if I click on these, this is meant to give that experienced technician a feel for what it's like at the shop. Same type of thing you'd want to show them if you were walking around and giving them a tour. And you can see there's little descriptions on here on the bottom. All of this stuff, Jay and I we took photos literally with an iPhone. It takes, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so to do that. And then to put the descriptions on the bottom, if you so choose. If you have stuff that you want to point out to them, in this case, some diagnostic equipment they want to show, that's good too. If you're a dealership, this probably isn't the place to show all the awesome cars on your lot. You can do that if you want, but those are more meant for customers. A lot of what we're doing here is for the people working on in the service department, what they want to see. So there's a spot to easily add photos. That, again, salespeople, others may not care about that, but technicians absolutely are going to care about that. I always compare this to kind of Zillow looking at a house. I'm not going to go look at every house based on an ad in the newspaper or based on a description. I want to see photos, maybe even videos, detailed descriptions, and then I'm going to pick which ones are worth taking time out to do that. Same thing would be true when you're applying for a job. And the next section, I'm not going to go through and use up everyone's time on all of our questions, but we came up with 5 categories in consultation with technicians about stuff they cared about most, things that they get frustrated that the job boards don't go far enough on. So the first 2, if we're being honest, are similar to other job boards that are out there where it goes through compensation, it goes through benefits. We encourage our clients to get very detailed on this, but I'm going to kind of skip over. The next ones are more FAQ style. We call it all under the hood, but these are questions that probably would come up normally in an interview. None of it's proprietary though. It's stuff, why not get this in front of them earlier? They may not read every single one. Some people care about things where other people don't. You know, even basic stuff. We're in Wisconsin, so a heated shop is very important. It also gets hot and muggy in the summer, so not a lot of shops around here have air conditioning, and these guys do, and they want to highlight that. Career development, that's a big one. So there's questions. We don't have to go through every single one of what it is, but it gives you a chance to frankly brag a little and disclose to them and highlight the things you want them to know. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, you talk about this when they're coming for an interview, and you still may if you get them to that stage. But what we want to do is help you get that information out earlier in the process, so you even get them to apply long before the interview even happens. So then the last area here, we call it shop talk. This is the newest thing we've added, and I'd say by far the best responses out of anything we've done in the last year or so is adding video to these pages. And it's so important. Again, Jay went to his dad's shop. I don't even think he told him he was coming. And he literally just pulled out his iPhone and talked to them about different things. These are not meant to be overly produced marketing videos. If you have some, it's great. You can link it in here as well. But the more people we talk to, it's common sense, but also we're seeing this proven true every time we show technicians these pages. What they really respond to, what they really think is cool, is just having the employees talk. So you can go out to these pages. We'll send a link and you can check them out yourself. One of them is unscripted, just talking about what they like to work there. Weirdly enough, this one is two of the guys just talking about what music they listen to. There's another about they switched their process for how they handle inspections. So they talk through that. All of these do a couple things. One, they get the information out. So they, I'm guessing, added a video about their inspection process because they're proud of it, and they went paperless and they added video and or maybe not video, but pictures. So they kind of are selling the benefits to the technicians that if they come here, here's the cool process. We all were frustrated with the paper world before, and this is why this is better. So they go through that, number one. But number two, it starts you to get a sense to meet the team, to feel the culture. I can't even describe it here, but once you watch 2 or 3 of these 3 or 4 minute videos, you get what I'm talking about. And at first the guys are a little nervous, and then they loosen up, and then you feel, anyone who's ever applied for a job or brought people in for an interview, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is meant to mimic that and to feel that culture and feel, you know, these guys pride themselves on being pretty informal and they joke around a lot. And that comes across very well in the videos. Other larger ones maybe they want to do, sometimes candidates are intimidated by applying to a very large organization. So it might be good to show them, yes, we are a big company. We have all the best equipment, the best tools, the best benefits. But we also, you know, we like to have fun, or it's not intimidating. We do mentor people, things like that. We have a whole listing of suggested videos that you can do. But the point is just getting that information out there. So these pages, this is partly what I mean about getting content out there. Marketers do a great job of, especially in the last 5 or so years, putting out content. If any of you guys follow our stuff, you probably see Jay's face all the time on your LinkedIn or other things we do. He's putting out videos all the time, and that works in the marketing world. And it's not in your face sales. In our case here, all these videos aren't in your face. This is the best place to work for these reasons. Instead, it's a lot of just documenting what you do and real talk. Again, it's trying to get those. It's like if you brought that person in for an interview and you want them just kind of spend a few minutes standing around talking to the guys, that informal stuff, that's gold right there in the marketing world. And same thing for recruiting, just kind of put yourself out there. The best part of it too, for anyone making the videos, is they're super easy to do. They don't take any budget at all. We all have smartphones these days. You don't want them all crooked or can't hear the people or anything like that. So you got to put a little thought into it. And if you record one and it takes 5 minutes and it sucks, then don't post it. You don't have to, but it's pretty awesome that we live in a world where it's easy to create these, and these unpolished, not bad, but just unpolished, not overly produced, those are what users flock to a lot more than some of the traditional marketing videos. So that is great for us, for people that do the recruiting. I'm going to go back to my slides here. All right, so we saw the page. That's how we help companies fill what I call that consideration gap. You can do that on your own. A lot of you already have career pages and things like that. I mean, again, not to be a commercial for WrenchWay, but one of the reasons we like what we do is no IT involvement. You can put a link on your website. We make it super easy. We give you all the guides of best practices and ideas to post. It doesn't mean you have to do all of them. We're constantly adding new features, and I'm sure there'll be questions at the end on pricing, so I'll just throw it out there now. It's $150 a month, so it's very reasonably priced to get it out there. But again, if you don't want to pay us anything and hate what we're doing, the concept remains true. If you document your recruiting and hiring process, I guarantee there's a big gap between that awareness stage and getting them to apply. So what are you doing to address that? Of course, if you look at it like a fork in the road, you want them to apply. That's the best thing that can happen. But if they're not quite ready, are you giving them anything? Is it just hope they come back? Or are you giving them another route to go and learn more about your company? And that kind of feeds into how we use these pages. Summary version is anywhere you recruit, you can add a link to this. So put a link on your website. Very easy to do that. We have clients that they go to a lot of career fairs. So again, this is mostly for experienced techs that I'm talking now, but they like pulling these out when they're at a career fair and they have their iPad or whatever, and they can show these photos, the pages, they can show the videos. It works well there. Most important one is over here on the right-hand side, include a link on your job post. So when you do post on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or wherever you're posting, put a link in there and put a sentence before it too of, you know, something of, for a real life look at what it's like to work here, check out our WrenchWay page or check out videos from our technicians or something like that. Don't just, I see a lot of people just link their website, and most people don't click those because they're going to assume there's nothing of value once I click and go through there. You have to tease them a little and tell them what they're going to see when they get over there. We have others, especially recruiters, they add a link on their email signatures or when they're communicating, whether it's text or email with a potential candidate, they include the link in there as well. There's just a ton of ways. Any recruiting you're doing though, if you're building this page, you might as well promote it. Worst case, they ignore it and it takes up one sentence of your posting probably at the bottom. We work with thousands of technicians, so we're pushing our audience to these pages as well. But I even hesitate to say that because frankly, I think a lot of what we see on the shortcomings of recruiting technicians is sometimes people just want the easy way out. So they think if we can just post an ad on Indeed, then I'm done. You have to work at it a little bit. Our job is to make it easy for you. But that same thing is true. Just because I have a box up here saying we'll push some traffic to you doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing all the other parts. And then the last one, which is actually at the top that I want to spend a second or two on, is getting your own team to share these. There's so many stats out there, but the one I love is if you get a person to share a post, it's over 5 times more likely that it'll get seen on Facebook and the other platforms. And by that, I mean, your company could share a video, but if you get an employee or even yourself as a person to share it, the reach is over 500% higher. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But the most important one is Facebook, all the others, they simply don't distribute company posts as much as they do individual posts. And they do that because, one, they're trying to get you to buy ads. So instead of a company post, they'll post it to like 5-10% of your audience, but they want you to buy an ad to get others to see it. And then two, they know most users of theirs want to see posts from their friends and family, not so much from companies they follow. So if you get these pages built, get your team to share them. And that's true of even on job postings on Indeed. You want to get them to share those, but think about your team. Are they more likely to share just a random link to a job post? Or if it's a video that they're in or their teammates are in, and it shows off kind of the cool parts of working there, I would bet anything that they're more likely to actually share those than just the standard job post. But we could have a whole topic on that and on getting employees to help out, because that is a very untapped resource that a lot of companies don't take advantage of. But once you build these pages, if you add a video, maybe you add 2 or 3 videos when you first set up your page, and then a month later you add another 5-minute one. Those are things that starts to build kind of a routine of getting more and more people to share it. And then their friends, their people they went to school with, whoever, start to see that, and they start to follow your company. All right, so kind of want to bring this back a second on our topic for why shops and dealers fail at recruiting technicians. There are a litany of reasons, but we focused on that main consideration stage today so far anyway. But I jotted down a couple bullets here. 1, stop acting like it's 1995 or 2005 or frankly even 2015. There are so many companies we deal with that they just expect that if you put an ad up within a week or 2, you're going to find someone. Awesome if that happens for you. You probably got lucky. You got to work at it a little more. You got to put the time in. You got to do some of the things we're talking about. It doesn't have to be through our products, but you definitely, with the shortage being where it is and it's going to get worse, you have to treat it with the respect it deserves and put some time and effort into it. The next bullet on here, we've kind of beat to death on this webinar, but know your buyer. It's not enough to just identify, oh yeah, they have a job. Think about it from their perspective of what that means. If I have a job and I'm scrolling through ads, hitting that apply button, that means stuff's getting real now. I'm probably going to actually leave, instead of me just complaining about my job for the last year, I might actually do something about it. That's a pretty big leap. Getting them to even update their resume is. So you got to get content in front of them. And again, it shouldn't just be all recruiting in your face. I have this on here as document is better than, or is greater than create. I stole this from someone else, but it's so true that you don't have to worry and be intimidated about having these high-priced, overly produced videos, very creative, things like that. Literally just document what your process is, something you're proud of, have your team be in the videos. That will be better than anything you could pay for from a marketing agency. And then authenticity and transparency always wins. That goes along that last point of people in general, but especially technicians, now that I'm getting to know more and more of them, pretty skeptical bunch. And that's okay. They start to roll their eyes at some of the marketing stuff. And if it's scripted, they can tell right away. They want to just have real conversations for the most part anyway. So authenticity, being transparent, that is never going to hurt you when you're recruiting. Well, I shouldn't say never. If you're a terrible company to work for, it's probably going to hurt you. My guess is if you're on a webinar like this and you care enough to get better at these things, you probably have the basics in place and you're not treating people terribly or severely underpaying them or anything like that. But before you do any of this, you have to make sure you're proud of the place you've built and the process you have in place. Last point here before I open it to questions. Got a couple minutes left, so that's good. We could do a whole nother topic on the need to always be recruiting, but I do feel like it fits into the rest of what I've talked about today. We focused on that consideration gap a lot, but with that, you always have to put some time and effort into it. So I added a slide here because everyone talks about the need or, oh yeah, always be recruiting. That makes sense. We want to do that. And then they don't actually do that. We're all busy. I get that. I'm busy. Everyone else on this call is busy, but you made the time to attend this webinar, or maybe you're listening to it later. There's too much of this. I'll get to it next week, next month, next quarter. What we want to help people do is just dedicate a few minutes. First, get started. That's the hardest part in anything. So we built our pages in a way that it's easy to get started. you can devote a half hour, 45 minutes, you can get 75, 90% of it done. And then after that, try that, maybe not every week, but 15 minutes a week. You'd be amazed at what you can do. And I don't mean for the recruiters on the call, just you. It's trying to get management, your GM, your service managers, others, they should be devoting a little bit of time. Again, it doesn't have to be each week. It could be twice a month or whatever you want, but there's just too much of talking about needing to always be recruiting and not enough doing. So one of the things we're working on now is creating a program to help people with that, help coach them along, help keep them accountable. And I apologize, I'm bouncing around a little bit here. Let me just go through this bullets before I share what that is. So sometimes people think always be recruiting means I don't let my paid ads run out. I keep them live at all times. Now that's part of it, but that's a very small part of it. You know, that's good. I encourage that, to always kind of have an ad out there. Most places we work with, if someone really good comes along, they're going to find a spot for them. But just because you always have an ad on Indeed or Zip or one of the others doesn't mean you're truly kind of always be recruiting. You're more just like checking the box, but not actually doing much. Another point with, if you have this mindset of you're always recruiting, you always think of things from that technician standpoint, it's going to help with your retention. If you take our advice and use these videos or photos, your team is going to get into that. At first, I guarantee they'll be reluctant, and some of them will never want to be on camera, but others, or not others, everyone, if you make them and they're truthful, they will share them. They will be proud of where they're working. And oftentimes when you say, hey, let's do a topic on career development, as you start talking with them, you might realize there's holes in that process you never knew existed, and stuff comes up, and then maybe you don't publish that video, but you help fix the issue. So in creating like a routine, a cadence to create videos like this, or to write little write-ups about your process, it helps to improve some issues that maybe you didn't even know were a thing. And then your team's going to see that you're listening, you're responding, you're fixing, and that's going to help with retention as well. So lastly, the product that or the feature, I guess, that we're adding to our product for this, we think of it like a fitness tracker. You know, it's New Year's time. A lot of us probably are on diets or lifting or exercising things. It works so much better if you track your results and you have something to keep you accountable. So just like trying to get in shape, when you're saying always be recruiting, don't just say it, because I guarantee then it'll be something that you keep every week putting it off for another week. Instead, set specific goals with specific dates, document all the activities you're doing, hold yourself accountable. Hopefully you're doing this with other team members and you're holding them accountable as well. A main point is, don't make it too intimidating. Just like if you're trying to lose weight, you're not trying to lose 50 pounds in the next week or anything. With these, you're not trying to spend 10 hours a week or anything. Hold yourself accountable to doing a couple things this month, a couple more the month after or week, and then keep going from there. With our product, just a real glimpse at it here. It's kind of, like I said, like a fitness tracker thing where we want to help create some categories and some goals. So if you're using our Shop Talk videos, maybe you have a goal of creating 10 of them over the course of a year, or maybe one a month, so 12 of them. There's in these, don't worry so much about the categories, but there's one called Our Team. It might be surveying your team, or getting your team to share the videos you made, or getting your team to refer their friends to work there. Community, it might be helping out your local high school. It might be going to a career day, things like that. Research might be finding out, you think you pay pretty well, but have you really looked into it in shops in your area to see if you are your benefits up to standard, things like that. We have a whole guidebook of over 100 of things you can do. Some of them might take an hour or two, so you're not going to do those very often. Some of them take 5 minutes. But do something and set some goals. That's kind of what we mean by always be recruiting. So with that, I think we probably have 15 minutes left. I know Sarah has a quick poll here that she wants to put up, but then after that, we'll jump into some of the Q&A. So if Sarah, you want to post that that poll you have, and then we can do Q&A after.
Yep, so I'm posting this out now. And this is just if you'd like to learn more about WrenchWay, we can have someone reach out to you. So I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes and then we'll jump into the Q&A. And just a reminder, if you do have questions, you can submit them at the bottom of the screen in the Q&A section, or you can send a chat message.
And Sarah, as that's going, if you want to ask a question.
Yeah, let me see if I can open that at the same time. Okay. Yep. All right. First question is from Bill. He says, I have a lot of luck taking the pain out of a written resume and asking people to apply via video resume. Do you think technicians would respond to a video resume campaign?
So the way I understand it, you're asking them to put together a video instead of a written resume? Is that how you read it, Sarah?
Yes, that's how I read it too.
Yep. If you can get them to do that, it's great. It's different, so that by itself might help. My guess is that you'll get a few. It's going to be tough. Again, if you picture yourself as the technician who just got done with a long day and they're scrolling through the job ads and you come across that, that feels like a lot of work to me. I would not discourage. I think it's like anything else. Try it, see what happens. But it's adding another obstacle to get people to reach out. But that being said, I would give it a shot. My gut feel is that a lot of good people will see that as a little too much work, but just because it's different, it might help for that reason. So Sarah, go ahead with the next one.
Great. Next question I can take is just, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar. It should get out in the next couple of days. So we will send that recording to you guys via email. Next question is, what are the costs?
Oh yeah, the program I showed is $150 a month to set that up. And then if you're somewhere that has several brands or several locations, we have bulk pricing. We work with some very large ones that have well over 100 different entities. So yeah, but the baseline, if you have one location, is $150 a month.
And another question about pricing that just came in, it said $150 per month covers all ads, question mark.
It covers that page that I showed. So creating that page that you can show on your own ad. So that kind of custom page that has your video, your photos, we just build the pages for you and then you include them on your own Indeed postings. We do have our own kind of job board that we route people to, so it covers that. But this doesn't cover any Indeed ads or anything like that. This is, our Find a Wrench service does some of that. That's a completely different offering. But what I went through today is building out those pages, technician specific pages. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, if you were already signed up with WrenchWay from the beginning of the launch, is the video function available for that already, or is it an additional cost?
It is not an additional cost. We were testing this with a few, again, we're in Madison, Wisconsin area, a few local shops here the last month or so. But just this past week, it became available to everybody. If you're part of it already, you have an account manager, so you can reach out. Otherwise, just reach out general here. I can show you how to do it. It's pretty intuitive though. If you've ever uploaded a video to Facebook or anything like that, it's exactly the same. But yeah, it is included in what you already have.
All right, next question is, why do dealerships seem to require personality quizzes and an interview with their HR department before talking to a manager?
That's a good question. I think, I don't want to bias it because people have different reasons for different things. I know in other industries I've worked in, when you get flooded with applicants, it's a great way to filter things out before they reach that level. So that may be true for some of them. In the industry we're in, if it were me, I probably would not include that step either at all, or I would include it later in the process. I know a lot of people really believe in that and that's important, but I would shift it back a little because again, you're trying, because of the shortage, this isn't like finding some other industries where you put an ad and 150 people will apply. Here, you're not going to get a ton of applications, and a lot of the ones you do just aren't a fit at all. So I see that as kind of an obstacle too early in the process. That's just my opinion. But again, I focus on the end user experience. Anything I can do to make it easy to attract that experienced technician, that's what I'm going to do.
All right, next question is, will virtual tour function be available in the future?
Potentially. We're always building new stuff. I think the easiest thing right now, whether it's the photos or making one of your videos kind of a virtual tour where you're commenting and walking around with your phone. We've got a couple of them that have done that, and it looks really well. Again, you don't want it to be too shaky or anything like that. We may add more, kind of like you see on realty sites, where it's, you know, the expanded view and it has music or something like that walking around. But right now, the videos, the ones we've seen where the GM or the service manager or recruiting person walks around, and if you can stop and talk to a tech or two, that's even better. Those seem to do better than the super polished ones.
All right, just a couple more here. One is, do you guys only work with the automotive industry or do you help other industries? We are an emergency generator business.
We are right now just focused on auto, diesel, and heavy equipment for technicians. That may change down the road, but honestly, we want to put as much attention as we can in this industry because there's such a need, and we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. And the more focused we can have it on this, so I'd say for quite a while, we're going to stick with the industry we're in, unfortunately. Or fortunately for us, but unfortunately for the person that asked the question.
All right, another question is, what if I don't offer the best benefits?
Yeah, just again, I like to compare things to real estate here. Not everyone needs a mansion to buy for a house. So there's a lot of people that get their benefits through their significant other. Some younger people still might be on their parents. And when I say benefits in this case, usually health insurance is the big one. So that's one thing. The second thing, this is my third startup I've been part of. The first couple, at first, we didn't offer benefits, and I thought it was more difficult than it was. So setting up a 401k plan or an IRA plan, those are pretty cheap things that you can do. A lot of the other insurance that's out there, non-health insurance, isn't really that costly. Even health insurance, it doesn't mean you need to pay the whole amount for them. So you can set up, it varies depending on what state you're in. But the point I'm getting to is two things. One, you may be able to get by, especially if you're smaller, without it. Just be upfront with that because you're just wasting your time and their time if they find that out later. That's point number one. But then point number two, if you haven't looked into it in a while, check it out. And there's brokers in every town that can find, you know, a reasonably priced one. I would encourage you, if you haven't looked at that in over a year or more, to reevaluate it because it is such a competitive environment. And it probably is costing you people. But again, we work with there's one really good shop I know here in Madison that doesn't offer it. They have a team of like 10, and it's not that they can't even afford to. Honestly, every one of their employees is married and is happy with having the insurance through their spouse, but that's probably pretty rare.
Great, and then one last question here, unless any more come in. Any advice for getting comfortable in front of the camera?
Yeah, I mean, I had some camera issues before this webinar, so I should have been on camera myself here. So I wasn't able to for the webinar, but Jay does most of our videos. He grew up in the industry, so that's why we have him do most of them. But also he's more comfortable and probably better at it than I am. So a couple answers to that. Someone on your team probably is, and it probably can be seen for them as, you know, an added responsibility that they're going to become more loyal and they can be part of it. So that's one way to go about it. But then more importantly, for the vast majority of people, no one's really comfortable at first. And then you do it a couple times and the first few you might, oh, that wasn't that good or whatever. I remember the first video Jay ever posted 4 or 5 years ago. Before I was at a different company, He was on his way to an airport, sent it to me. He thought it was terrible, wasn't going to post it. And it was like 6 a.m. I was like, dude, that is awesome. That is perfect. That's exactly what people want to see. And then he did it. And then in the next week, he did another one. And it's like anything else, you have to start. Everything seems so intimidating until you take that first step, and you'll get more comfortable with it. Our team, Kate, does an awesome job. If you follow her on LinkedIn, she fought Jay tooth and nail to start that a year or so ago. And now she posts more than Jay does, and she loves it. So to summarize that, try it. You'll get comfortable for 95% of the people. The other 5% that it's just not in your wheelhouse, someone on your team will. And it probably is a good thing that'll help them, feel like they're a bigger part of the team if you let them take the reins on that.
All right, we did have one last question come in, so I think we have time to answer this last one. Question is, how many technicians are signed up with your platform app, or any way to tell how many technicians are seeing this?
So it's a little confusing because we do have Find a Wrench, which is a traditional recruiting company, and then WrenchWay. Some of those get blended together. We have a database of over 50,000 technicians. That doesn't mean they're all going out to WrenchWay every single week or anything like that. So that's a tough one to answer. That's the number we have for our total database, and that I think we purge that, every 6 months or so, so we don't have people that haven't contacted us in years. So that's the best number I have. But again, the point I would refer you to more so on WrenchWay is don't look at WrenchWay as the magic bullet that once you create your page, we're going to do all the work for you and drive all the traffic to you. We want to drive some definitely to you, but it's going to be far more beneficial if you take this page and use it in your own efforts, meaning put a link on your own ads you post, get your own employees to share it on their Facebook, share it on your company pages, show it off at career fairs, email your candidates with links to it. Everything that anytime you want to talk about how awesome you are to work for or what it's like to work as a technician, that's where you're going to get the value. And I don't mean to pick on the person that asked that question, but I do, it does feed into the bigger issue. I think too often people want to just say, oh, I want to find the next great job board that all I have to do is post on there and I'm going to get flooded with candidates and technicians. That's not going to be the case. We hope to become that someday, but really what we want to do is help you get better at it and broadcast it yourself and have cool things to show. Does that make sense, Sarah? Hopefully I covered that.
It does, and he commented back and said that makes sense, and thank you for the explanation. So.
Oh, good.
And with that, I think that's all the questions we have.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending. We'll probably do more of these every once in a while. We honestly just kind of put it together. Thought maybe we'd get 20, 30 registrants and then got 300. So we were a little worried on the content we showed, but just like starting with the videos, we wanted to just start and do something. And it sounds like these are going to take off. And I'm sure we learned something from this one that will make better next one. But that would be my kind of final comment is these are new for us in these webinars, and getting started is the hardest thing. And then we'll make them better each time. I would challenge you to do the same thing in attracting technicians. Is just because you might be a little uncomfortable with something or you haven't tried it before, what are you out? Maybe half hour of your time if you give it a shot, but at least try something different. So sermon over with that. I will let you all go on with the rest of your days. I appreciate you guys signing up. We do have an event coming up in a couple weeks here, technician roundtable, where we're going to be talking about getting more kids interested in to the industry. That one is going to be awesome. Jay's leading that, so you don't have to listen to me ramble. But I would encourage you to sign up for that if you're not already. Any last words, Sarah?
Nope, I think you covered everything.
All right, look at that, 1:59 Central Time. We got a minute to spare. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.